Aperture.
Thank you for coming. I really didn't expect to see so many of you. It's a real surprise. I feel like it's my bat mitzvah. It's really it's really funny. And I begged some people to come for moral support. Thank you, Linda and Jackie, for coming. It's a big deal for me to talk here at Aperture and to be published by Aperture. Thank you to Leslie Martin for being my editor and bringing the Amelia and the Animals book to life. And to Kelly McLaughlin and Barbara Escobar. You are literally supportive 24/7. I have stage fright doing these talks, and I've done a few of them, and I should get better at it, but I still get scared. These presentations, though, have made my life better. This talk is particularly intimidating because it's Aperture. It's what I've been working toward. And Amelia's listening, although she's like so far in the back, I could pretend she's not here. Through these talks, a few people have significantly changed my life and brought my work above the radar. Elizabeth Christ, a senior photo editor at National Geographic magazine, found me on the web and invited me to speak at National Geographic at their seminar where Vince Musi, a Nat Geo photographer and director of Look 3, invited me to give a master talk with an exhibition. And then I got asked to Eddie Adams. Those were shorter talks. After each talk, I'm really glad to meet people afterwards and to be seen as a photographer. These talks in Aperture have given me a photo community, a way out of my New Jersey bubble, where I'm isolated and anonymous, and anonymous even to my students. I've been so grateful to meet photojournalists and editors who I've learned from and understand my challenges working with live animals. And they seem to get me. Otherwise, I feel my people are animal people. That's funny. I guess I didn't play. This is not how I usually do this, so that wasn't there. My motivation to photograph with animals is driven by unique animal experiences, gifts to share with my daughter and for her to remember me by. These profound encounters, to me, transcend any verbal explanation, but maybe have something of the magic in the photographs that I feel were there when I took them. I fall in love almost every time I photograph animals. I think animal people understand this about me. But to be realistic, I know that what I feel is the intense but unearned intimacy that which Richard Avedon spoke about regarding his portrait photography, which has no past and future. Defying logic, I want the animal people I like to adopt me into their families. And many times I try to do multiple visits if they let me in. Amelia's World was the first Aperture book, as Leslie had said, and it was edited by Tim Barber and covered 5 years. This came about from my giving a ride to Ryan McGinley. I didn't know who Ryan McGinley was, but he left my printer and he was struggling with this huge box in the wind, and I had a big Honda Odyssey. Ryan recommended me to Tim Barber, who put the Amelia portfolio on Tiny Vices, which was a really out-of-the-box venue for editors around the world to look at. And being published by Aperture, an historic photography and not-for-profit foundation, is a gift and an honor. The people that work at Aperture have watched Amelia grow up and tolerated her rolling around on her heelys at gallery openings. And even once, to my horror, she rolled around with a plate of sushi and soy sauce close to the photographs on the wall. But they put up with us, and I hope that Aperture considers us family. Since my daughter Amelia was 3 years old, she has been the inspiration for my work and the subject of my photographs. I've been working for 12 years on this series, dedicated to documenting mine and Amelia's adventures among the animals. I am driven to depict relationships with animals, but the photographs are not documents. They are evidence of the invented worlds
that we explore and the fables we enact together. The world that my daughter and I explore is one where the line between humans and animals overlaps, where animals are part of our world and humans are part of theirs. I like books. I think that they take you away. If there's a book, if the Kickstarter works, this is the cover. So. And I think Amelia, looking at the pictures of Amelia, for some of the animal people, they remember their kids little, and it gives them something, I think, of that remembrance and that connection. Taking her with me and doing this, I hope that she remembers it and tells her kids about it. And the most exciting thing, my present for Mother's Day, was that a 6-month-old baby kangaroo, a Joey, was generously brought to my house in Hoboken, and we photographed. I don't get to photograph a lot while she's in school. Amelia's 15. She has a life of her own. She's a teenager, but this was a big Mother's Day gift to me.
Anyway, thank you. The new book, Amelia and the Animals, spans chronologically from 2002 to 2013. And publicity has been good, thanks to Barbara, with interviews and features. Oprah Magazine was a big one, and Amelia has carried off a UK FaceTime interview, and a few of these features are listed on my website. I had not set out to photograph my child. I am a working mother and perpetually overwhelmed by never-ending deadlines, attempting to navigate the politics of finally being a tenured professor at William Patterson University, and trying to give my daughter what she needs and take care of my home and be nice to my husband and then try to produce art. Despite the Animal Project, Amelia Project, I feel I have spent too much time away from my child, who grew up as fast as everyone told me she would. Now she is a powerful 15, and my husband is confounded by how connected Amelia and I are, despite being able to break each other in seconds. In the end, we support each other. I have a new second dog who feels like a baby and doesn't mind my kisses. I understand how being affectionate to a family pet can be misinterpreted by older kids. I hear my college students complain about their mothers, that they love their dog more than them. I assure you, they don't. Up until Amelia, my excuse to photograph has been my drive to be with animals, the animals I admire, to save them through photography because their lives are always too short. Communicating with animals and witnessing what I call interspecies relationships and being accepted into a dog pack or holding a baby gorilla have been my highs. Now my most intense life experiences have been growing up and growing old with my daughter. I earned my access to animals from prior projects. The primates and dogs were long-term series published as monographs. My first editor, Jim Mars at Norton, considered my work for 2 years before publishing Like Us, Primate Portraits. I assumed the tipping point getting the project past the table was that the Museum of Modern Art, and I was lucky enough to shake hands with John Sarkowski, was that the museum purchased primate photographs, and I received a New Jersey state grant. Maybe there was less of a financial risk if others were paying attention to my work. The photos were the same as 2 years before. I was very fortunate to get published that first time, and I agreed to everything that my editor and his designer wanted. Jim insisted on writing the foreword, even though a wonderful staff writer from the New Yorker, Emily Hahn, wrote a lovely foreword for me. I did not fight for my favorite image. The book designer didn't like the open mouth of Mr. Jiggs. I ached to do this book again. Hi, Leslie. The editor of my primate book, Jim Mars, generously tried to get the Mexico series published, but this project did not get past the Norton table. It was deemed too depressing for sales. This series came about 22 years ago. I had quit my teaching job and technician job to shadow my husband, Robert Forman, on his Fulbright scholarship to exchange painting techniques with the Huichol artists. indigenous people in Mexico. Now I'm photographing in Mexico again, observing Amelia interviewing Robert's longtime Huichol artist friends for a documentary film for school. The dog watching book was published after the primate book. It was a blessing that I was able to choose my designer this time, Germaine Clare. I met Germaine through her husband, Brooks Johnson, curator of photography at the Chrysler Museum of Art. Brooks invited me to give my first talk with a solo exhibition at the Museum of the Primates with a book signing. Germaine ended up also being an unofficial editor of the book. And she cared about my concerns and was wonderful on all fronts and helped me fight for some stray dog pack photographs to be in the book. There was a cuter cover for the Japanese edition. I deeply regret that I did not have the confidence and the stamina to continue the Arabers and Primate series. These were exciting projects for me where science and anthropology merged. I folded under criticism and quit the Primates twice. A curator from the Brooklyn Museum who became a mentor urged me to continue the Primates, and it's taken me years of photographing animals to understand that the politics concerning animals is not at all black and white, and that I learned in these last few years that not going back, you can't pass up opportunities, you could never get them back. Time changes everything, and access, and my subjects. I learned too late what the Primate Project meant to the people that I met through that project. So, when administrators at my university objected to my photographing my daughter, I did not yield to the pressure to quit this time. This was an experience in fortitude. I was advised over and over by administrators to quit this personal project I cared deeply about. My research release time recommended by university faculty councils was cut for 3 consecutive years. This experience changed how I taught. I keep in mind to always respect and consider what my students care about. Being invited to talk at National Geographic magazine seminar and changes in my administration got me the release time to teach 1 less class for 2013 and 14. This is one of the reasons I am so grateful to Elizabeth Christ. I was beaten down at school, and Elizabeth talked me up. It was completely unfathomable that she had found me on the web and thought me good enough to present to the seminar of renowned photographers and editors. Many people ask me how I get access to animals and owners. Last semester, I taught an animal portrait class at the International Center for Photography, and one of the first questions asked was, "Where'd you get those elephants?" My access is personal, from either proving myself through my work, usually seen on the web, or being recommended by an animal caretaker who trusts me. I work very hard to gain access. I don't have the money to pay the rates of animal modeling agencies. And in 2014, getting in is very challenging and quite different from the easy vetting I had in the 1980s and 90s. My daughter has always been more than sweet. Amelia is tough, very smart, and her assertive verbal skills far exceed mine. Becoming a mother did not come naturally to me. I am comfortable holding dogs and not other people's babies, human babies. Thank goodness for the intense bond breastfeeding gave me with Amelia. Photography further links us, providing Amelia with adventures to write about for school and the foreword for this new book. She wrote the foreword. At age 15, Amelia asks to be photographed and attempts to direct me. She is driven by fashion and her new maturing body. This can complicate or enhance my photo shoots and editing. Our photographic partnership evolves with the changes in our relationship from moment to moment. I struggle to drop my ego and to listen to Amelia and consider her suggestions, and to work together to achieve the best results. We brainstorm and negotiate to do in extremely time-pressured and sometimes uncomfortable situations. For me, light and humidity is very hard, managing the light, And for Amelia, her job is physically and intuitively demanding. The animals have to like her. Sometimes she has to hold a real wiggler, like an anteater, or she ends up having her teeth examined with a little head of a tamarin inside her mouth. Mostly pee and poop happens to her a lot. My daughter and my stories become one through our collaboration. I also photograph myself through Amelia. These photographs are my legacy to my daughter, what she will have of our time. I began this project after my mother's death to give Amelia something of us together. We were both only children. My father died just after I turned 19, and my attitude toward death and my own mortality can be very morbid. Photography is my therapy, and of course, animals are a necessity for my survival. Our household animals have been all over Amelia since birth. We tried a crib for a week, but it seemed cruel to put her in a cage while we slept with our 2 whippets and our 2 cats. So when Amelia was 3, when a lemur flew over her head, she wasn't fazed. Although my husband says Amelia is named after his grandfather Emil, I got the name from my friend Allison's monkey, a capuchin named Amelia. Because of the confusion that we had, I call her capuchin Little Amelia. I also took Allison's kids' names and named my cats after them. But she puts up with them, and she says all her favorite names were wasted on her animals. Not wasted, but used. Both Amelias share the same nickname, one that Amelia does not like to be called now, but sometimes I slip up. Little Amelia died in 2013. She was estimated to be 45 years old, and I photographed the memorial service as my Amelia said goodbye. The backstory to little Amelia is that I began photographing her in 1988 with her human sister Hannah. Having a monkey for a sister and being called Monkey Girl was not easy for this full scholarship Yale graduate. Hannah was the only other child I have ever had the drive to photograph. I photographed the author photo for Hannah's Friedman's book, Everything Sucks, a junior high school memoir, which includes some stories about little Amelia and Allison. Now Hannah is a TV writer in LA. My Amelia had inherited my attachment to toy monkeys as well as real monkeys. I photographed and traveled with these monkey dolls for 8 years, and I eventually accepted them as family. As Amelia used to say, these were my grandchildren. Amelia has banished them from her life and will not discuss them. She is now more mature than I am, and I have inherited them. I guess this talk is full of regrets. I regret being too busy to play with all of them when I had the chance. I miss the way they came to life as distinct, real characters in our lives. I took for granted that everyday magic that is fleeting with a ticking biological clock. I hope to compile the photos of these well-traveled characters and their adventures, some with real primates that Amelia set up these shots with together in a little book. Many of my early opportunities to photograph Amelia with animals came from one of my students telling me to go to the Catskill Game Farm upstate. This was a real gift. This photograph ran twice in Oprah magazine. Boy deer there understood that corn and treats had to be bought. Boy deer are very, very pushy. Amelia puts up with my deer obsession, and I am obsessed with deer, and she has always been a monkey person. Shy girl deer only come forward when the boys are isolated due to their antlers' velvet shedding and their antlers being so sharp when they go into rut. Amelia learned how to win the trust of the girls. She's low-key with animals, and she lets them come to her. To this day, Amelia doesn't think she does anything special with the animals or me. This was a place out of time. When Amelia was 3 years old, we met Sheba at the Catskill Animal Farm. Amelia made direct conversation with this elephant, and Sheba picked her up over and over again on her command. We went back to visit Sheba later that summer, and we found out that she had been deported back to Canada for not having the proper paperwork. It took us 3 years to make the trip to visit Sheba in Canada. We also met Pet, a lemur, as well there, and this photograph is in the Aperture's limited edition program. Some circus people have generously allowed us into their world to photograph. Fortunately for me, they take to Amelia. My past work and stories with primates help get me in. This is a circus horse here. Performing animal people and animal caretakers of exotics all know each other. The elephants I've photographed Amelia with were all cared-for females in their 40s. I've had the privilege of knowing their trainer for many years. I think Jenny here is sniffing Amelia's butt. Heather, who runs an educational zoo and brings animals to school, has befriended us with access to her animals. This is an albino wallaby. In this photograph, titled Investigation, it's sort of a Goldilocks picture for me. Amelia figures out how to lure these shy kangaroos. Food is a necessity. Amelia earned this kangaroo, her name is Mouse's trust. Without asking Heather, Amelia placed her hand inside Mouse's pouch and felt a very small Joey who had not peeked out yet or had been checked out at this early stage. Heather told me she watches at various schools how children interact differently with her animals, and she said Amelia had an aura. And this was the first time I remember an animal caretaker talking to me about how Amelia specifically relates to animals. That animals relate to Amelia comes up now in many shoots. Amelia is oblivious to the compliment and to so many people telling her how lucky she is. A few years after the kangaroo photos with Mouse and Lexi, the TV show Inside Edition contacted me through my accidentally signing a bad 3-month contract with Bancroft Media. Inside Edition wanted to film me photographing Amelia with something big, like an elephant, for me to find it and cover all the expenses and get an animal to my home for the show. Since Inside Edition would not pay for anything, I thought TV might help me go up for tenure. I was crazed during that period. My friend Heather made the 3-hour drive to bring 3 kangaroos to our 3rd floor walk-up. This is the shot I got out of it. Mouse did have some sort of bond with Amelia that was interesting to watch. The story never aired. I never got the film, but it was fun. The guys who shut down our street that day, so Heather couldn't even drive up the street with the kangaroos, they shut down the street to pave it. They enjoyed seeing the kangaroos in Hoboken. From the beginning, I have always given photographs or files as a thank you for access. I am now extremely behind on getting prints out, and I could really use office help if anyone's willing. Pulling off my photography is a hardship on my family because photography is so expensive. It's good for me that Aperture is a not-for-profit, combined with my not being commercial and having no budget. People with animals allow me access as a kindness, and I must honor their animals for this gift and their trust. I want Amelia to have some experiences, some good experiences, and some fun during the shoots. As I said before, the shoots could be hard work physically and emotionally. I depend upon Amelia's ingenuity and her experience for each shoot. How Amelia engages with each animal depends upon the animal's socialization, that particular caretaker's situation, not necessarily the breed or the species, as many would assume. It's really up to Amelia to figure out on her own how to relate to the animals while I photograph. Sometimes we have a chance to talk it out, but ultimately what happens in front of the camera is on Amelia. She tries several approaches does as much for me as she can, and then goes with the flow while I persistently keep shooting until we fall apart. When an animal or Amelia is done, they are really done, no matter how good they look in the frame. I now realize I never had any control. With each shoot, I just struggle to manage the light, and I need to learn more. Most of this project was shot on a Mamiya 7 on Pro 800 film. I think my aim when using film had been to go for one good photo. Amelia now says she prefers digital because I used to take too long to load film and I got stressed and I missed the best situations and I cursed a lot. I said goodbye to 220 film last summer and I have frozen film and cameras to sell. A digital camera that keeps on going. But photographing live animals under the clock in challenging lighting situations with no assistance makes sense digitally for me now. I used film and chemicals for 35 years, even mixing RA4 with benzene. I am totally cooked on that front and I have nothing to prove. I learned from Nat Geo photographers to shoot at high ISOs to get the shot. Digital still drives me nuts. I worry that I shoot too much and I miss the moment. I always feel I make so many mistakes, ones that I should see while I'm shooting. I wish I were smarter and I wish I were calmer. I made a deal with Amelia when she was 10 that I would only photograph her with animals because that's what she wanted at the time. And I wanted to stop bothering her about photographing her solo, give her a break. Meeting animals was the thing that she liked. Now Amelia asks to be photographed without animals, and I don't want to do it. While editing for the book, Amelia got to tell me, and I told you so, because my editor, Leslie, asked to see more photos of Amelia solo, and I didn't have any new ones. We were both very stubborn, but now it's my time to bend. I will photograph Amelia as she wants to be photographed, even if that means fashion, and I'm trying to figure out how to make this happen. I will also find the drive to photograph without animals. I owe her. I struggle to go with the flow during the shoots, and they don't always work out. Trying to be in control can be a disaster on several fronts. Sometimes all I get out of the shoot is the experience of the animal. Even though this photograph does not make my edit, I can show photographs during this keynote that I'm never going to publish or show again. Amelia is proud of this photograph and the work she did with this cougar and asked this frame to be included. It was an intense experience for us both. I depend on Amelia's ideas for her styling and for her to assist me. I hired Amelia as my photo assistant for my first editorial shoot for the New Yorker magazine, photographing Lena Dunham and her dog Lammy. Amelia was the perfect assistant. Lena really liked Amelia and for a year was going to write the introduction for our book. I found out by accidentally having dinner with the producer of Girls in Paris that Lena says yes to many requests and then her producer has to deal with it later and get her out of it. Lena did write the best quote for our book. She said, "I love the way Robin Schwartz work explores the mystery of femininity, coming of age, and the complex but unbreakable bond between humans and animals. Her work is utterly appealing and uncomfortably uncanny." Lena Dunham, filmmaker and actress. I saw on Instagram that Lena's wearing the photo of Lammy was mounted in a jeweled cameo, a gift by a designer, but I got no photo credit there. Early on, Amelia had no fear of bugs, saliva, slime, poop, or dead things. 2 summers ago, Amelia put a dead baby possum into a jar of alcohol for me because I couldn't do it. This deer had been washed up in East Hampton. Except for this photograph, I don't photograph anything dead or taxidermied or through bars or glass. I'm just too haunted to do that. Lying with a dead deer was Amelia's idea, and I was a bit freaked out by it. To me, I thought maybe she was talking to the deer in her head. She was clearly very empathetic to the deer and keenly interested in its bones and structures, and she might have done more with it if I let her. I did once let her pluck all the feathers off a dead peacock, and now I have a bag of those feathers I don't know what to do with. But Amelia's always wanted to be a scientist. The specifics have changed, but not her scientific desire. Though Amelia draws so well, her drawings are part of the book's Kickstarter, and I hope to get that picture too. And she's passionate about ceramics. There's no way she would ever choose art like her struggling parents. My aim is to cross the line and become friends with some of my animal contacts. It is a privilege to be accepted as a friend. These are 6 Sphinx, hairless mutant cats in Sandy Adler's home. She was a force and one of the first Sphinx breeders in the U.S. Sandy loved Amelia and treated her like a granddaughter. This was good for Amelia, having no living grandmothers. We were invited to great events Sandy organized, like Matilda's birthday party and fashion show at the Algonquin Hotel. We are still deeply saddened by her passing. We got our pink Sphinx, Jacob, from Sandy after my much-loved Cornish Rex died. As a hairless cat, Jacob sought heat and slept with me or Amelia. Jacob had to be bathed weekly, and as luck would have it, he was a greasy Sphinx. Some are greasy, some aren't. My boy was, and he hated baths. I don't know how I would have done it without these glass doors. Jacob left greasy body grease like body grease on our sheets and dandruff on our clothes. I loved him. Anyway, being hairless also comes with teeth deterioration, and this was Jacob's second dental cleaning. My Chinese-crested Nora, she had 4 dentals. Both Nora and Jacob passed away last year, 17 days apart. Here, Jacob is purring and happy to be in our sunny tower bedroom with Amelia. 4 days later, he died of the cancer he had been diagnosed with just 2 weeks before. And the other picture is a snap of them when they were young. I draw on a wide range of influences as Leonardo da Vinci's Lady with an Ermine. This is my John Singer Sargent in my friend Linda's garden. This is my obviously Frida Kahlo, and this is Nora when her eyes were clear before she went blind. Marc Chagall and Henri Rousseau were big influences on me as a kid. This is Stretch from day camp, and just before I photographed him, they shaved him and he rolled in the dirt. He had lovely, long, white, fluffy hair, I think the day before. This is my Rousseau. Besides Ricky, the picture of Amelia with the chimp, Amelia says Lorenzo is her favorite picture and the cover of our book. This is my Salvador Dali picture. Our Hannah liked flying at least the first 15 times, and but we swing her when we fold the bed sheets, so she sort of likes it. She's only 5 pounds, and she's the bravest and the smartest in our household. Jacob was the opposite. He's below in the frame, and he's cautious, and he was very clumsy, and he was watching safe in his cradle. Let's see. I'm going to go flip back and forth. I mixed up an order. No one likes this picture but me, but anyway, I'm going to go back to it. I'm sorry, I screwed up. This photograph is called Trinity, and I'm Jewish, and for some reason I have this intense fascination with medieval art, and I try to make Amelia into the Virgin Mary. My interest in Christianity confounds Amelia, and she finds it very annoying and doesn't, really want to be the Virgin Mary. And she also feels that it's very disrespectful to made Jacob into the baby Jesus. No one likes this picture but me. This is Amelia being Jesus to the skunks. Although Amelia did not like my second Cornish Rex, Nathaniel, they were very competitive with each other. From the time we brought Amelia home from the hospital, Nat would just sit on her like she was a mountain. But she was very helpful at his end. She helped to cajole him into eating, and she helped hydrate him with a needle in the bag. And Nathaniel survived 3 years of diabetes, insulin, and seizures. This is Rebecca, our beautiful white whippet, the dog of my dreams, Amelia's sister and constant companion. She's in many of my photographs. Rebecca took directions without being asked. Whenever I pulled out the camera, Becky had to be in front of it and would go right beside Amelia. She's ill with a brain tumor in these frames, including the flying Hannah photograph from before. Because Becky's seizures had the frantic aftermath of, we took turns sleeping with Becky on the floor. The last night, Amelia slept with her on the floor, and she had to wake us for the worst seizure. Amelia was never close to any other animal like that again, and she greatly misses our beautiful Rebecca. The animals Amelia grew up with, Rebecca, Nora, and Jacob, their passing marked the end of an era for us. For my husband and me, this was our second pack of cats and dogs together. Amelia is not connected in that deep, utterly sweet way to our current household. Amelia is not eccentric like me, and she is very logical, and she loves logic. My husband and I feel that after 9/11, there was a period up until last year when a close family member was dying. My mother-in-law and my mother died a few weeks apart when Amelia was 3. Their deaths made me do this project. I hold it together when they're dying, and I fall apart after. All these photographs are part of my recovery from grief. Amelia says my friend Allison, who had little Amelia, and I are both weird about death in the same way. The surviving member of this early, tight, harmonious pack is Hannah. Amelia's in my wedding dress, which I wore and shredded at my wedding. And this is taken on our flat roof. We live in a converted firehouse in Hoboken. I got a really beautiful Cornish Rex cat, Elijah, the winter Becky was dying. This cat broke me, and we called him Pee-Pee Boy. His photographs get selected by editors. Pee-Pee Boy is happily living in California now, and I have a new washing machine. That's Pee-Pee Boy with his tail up, acting wacko. We now have a rescued Hoboken stray, Samson. He's at the lower corner. He won't sit with the other animals. He's a loner, and he's probably a killer and a bully I'm trying to reform. He's Amelia's favorite animal at the house. Sammy actively hates all Chinese cresteds, including my second rescue. We have what I think is a normal amount of animals, 2 cats, 2 dogs. That's all I have, 2 cats, 2 dogs, nothing else. Teen Amelia is embarrassed of our animal count and of me, but I'm probably going to get another cat. I maintain a trap and release to a shrinking cat population in my driveway. All shoots are a gamble, as was this shoot of Thunderfoot, the skunk. Amelia got to use my new 5D, and I got a semi-usable shot of Peep, a fat albino driven by food. I reshot the skunks again to do better. Thunderfoot still loves Amelia, but she doesn't love him. I do. I kept asking Amelia to be engaged, but the owner thought Amelia was great with her sensitive skunks. I realize I do not understand Amelia's ability to lull animals without trying, and that I've taken it for granted. I am an animal groupie. My fallback photographing is to photograph dogs, and only the breeds that I'm attracted to. And that's my new whippet, Ruby. 4 years ago, I sought out greyhounds in Paris after being selected as one of the finalists in the Year's photography festival. There were 10 finalists from all over the world. I went through dog withdrawals that second week in France and emailed my whippet breeder in Indiana to find me whippets to photograph in Paris. And she found me greyhounds. I like France. France is dog-friendly, just like Aperture. When I first met with Elizabeth Christ the summer before the Nat Geo talk, she asked me what else I was working on besides the Amelia series. I was embarrassed to have to say nothing else. I had no drive to shoot anything else. I could barely get the Amelia work done. I was consumed for years with proving myself to get a full-time tenure-track job with health insurance while I managed a university photo area, and then the pressures of going up for tenure, which was some sort of hazing. And my family's security was so precarious. But to prove I could do something else, I went back to the dogs. A glimpse into the world of dog photography got real as a Time Lightbox assignment at the Center for Photography at Woodstock. I had attempted to make conversation with Kira Pollack, the director of photography at Time magazine. She had juried me into a 2013 photo annual exhibition. I told Kira that I'd been photographing dog couture events in New York City. After 4 rescheduled publication dates and even more edits, 21 photographs from this project were published for Time magazine Lightbox as an assignment. I learned to be responsible for captions and to stop sizing out of format. I did the project to do it, to finish a series in a short period of time. It was 5 months' worth of work. The competition with other photographers was really tough. It was vicious. And Kira gave me a pass, so I would stop being pushed around. Human animals are the most scary. People are always asking me what I'm afraid of, and it's definitely people. My fun for this project was having Amelia in the Brooklyn Fashion Show, and this is the last picture of my first Chinese crested Nora in this beautiful gown by Anthony Rubio. It's a Virgin of Guadalupe gown that I lusted for. We have visited Dilly, who lives in a house and has a veterinarian for an owner 3 times. She has her own bedroom, and she understands steps, but she can't do the doorknobs. And here she is in her bedroom again. This is Nifty. Nifty lived to be 15 years old. I used to be able to shoot in Springs, East Hampton, Accabonac Harbor, but family circumstances have changed. All my dogs loved it out there, and I used to stay at the last house on Girard Drive. Mostly we're in Hoboken and New York City. I'm always looking forward to invitations. If you want to invite me to your nice house and I'll photograph your interesting animals, I'm available. This is Poppy Nagel, and she had a really beautiful guest house. When Amelia was 10, I asked her what she wanted to get out of the project, and she said primates. She had wanted to be a primatologist influenced by paleontology at that time. I networked through my old primate contacts to connect to a performing clown with a primate act who further helped me. This was plastic fruit. Plastic fruit can be very upsetting to people and animals. We were playing monkey in the middle, and Amelia was in the middle. We stayed at the owner's home. She fed us, and she flew up to attend Amelia's bat mitzvah. I love this woman. Breakfast Talk, which is hanging in that room in the back, is one of my favorites from this trip. And I hope you get to see it. And this is about how Rosie related to Amelia. There's no controlling the animals. They are doing what they do with Amelia without any direction. This is a young gibbon, Maddie. She totally made Amelia happy to continue our project. We're grateful to travel back and photograph Maddie 3 times. The second time, Amelia and Maddie had to work out their relationship, much as I do. Primate adolescence seems universal. Primates are as different, again, from each other as humans are from other humans. Maddie remembered Amelia and asked to have her feet rubbed. Maddie is a real princess. Tigger is a kinkajou with an outstretched pollinating tongue. We didn't know about that tongue until we saw the film. This is Samantha. She's a serval, and she got spooked just before we arrived to photograph by neighbors knocking on the door. It almost blew 3 hours of driving and my shoot. Amelia wanted a fennec fox experience, and I rephotographed Patty and Mimi, fennec foxes, the second year. This image is different than what's in the book because I changed my mind and I like this one better for the keynote. Mimi was raised with Sparky the cat, and they played a lot. When Amelia was doing a 7th grade homework assignment researching articles for newspapers from Africa, she found a syndicated article about a two-faced cat, and I tracked down this cat and photographed him over 4 years. He's 15 years old, same as Amelia, same age, and he's a bit testy now with age. He has 180-degree vision, and one mouth drools, and the other side can eat. And he sneezes and drools a lot on Amelia now. And primates, armadillos, and giraffes, like I said, that peed and pooped and slimed Amelia, but she's a pretty good sport about it. Good things happened after those talks at Nat Geo and Look 3, and really my life changed. Pep talks and technical talks helped my confidence, and I got a better attitude, because I could be pretty dark. Kelly McLaughlin was a great supporter at Aperture, and when I leave school, I'm a teacher and a mom in New Jersey, and I feel somewhat anonymous. But when I come to New York City and I come to Aperture, my life is transformed. Here, I'm a photographer and an artist. I realized that I had lost myself working for job security and for health insurance and tenure. I juggle hard now to change my priorities and to be present for what matters most in the long run, my family and photography. Photographs from the Amelia series were published in the Sunday New York Times, and those had to be unpublished anywhere. And then more were published on Lens Blog and on Time Lightbox of the Amelia series. I also photographed a zoo story for an assignment for the New York Times Magazine, and I kissed a really beautiful seal, and I had that picture here, but I keep screwing up my, my keynote, and that picture's not here. Amelia wrote the captions for a feature in New Yorker magazine, and I saw things from Amelia's perspective, how much she can't remember, or she doesn't remember. It was really awesome that Jesse Wender, my editor, thought to enlist Amelia to write. The Amelia photographs have been published at Slate, New York Magazine, the Huffington Post, Stern, as well as many online publications in the US, the UK, Germany, Italy, France, and China. And my Modern Met is doing a chapter on the Amelia photographs in their book. This photograph is a saved turkey at the Woodstock Animal Sanctuary, and he forever changed Thanksgiving for me, and I don't eat turkey anymore for Thanksgiving, but Amelia just sucks on those bones. A TV feature, the Inside Edition, CBS, came through this time. The producer in LA was extremely caring with us. We photographed baby squirrels in incubators and but those didn't make my edit. These baby horned owls did. Although I was warned Amelia would become a teenager, I just did not get it. I am like a deer in the headlights, and I have been brought to tears with Amelia's growing up changes. I know I must try harder to change and pick my battles and let it go. I just wish I had a maid. Maybe the animal caretakers who deal with us see their own children and their unique experience with animals through Amelia. It is bittersweet to see the old videos in the Aperture Kickstarter. This was us, so far in the past, but not that many years ago. It's a blur, but those films and photos make it real for now, and it was real. It's just really difficult to remember. I commiserate for advice now about teenagers. Heather told me teenagers are like birds flying around your head, coming down to peck at you, coming back for food. This made sense, and it was a comfort to share. What I understand about myself is that I understand nothing until I experience it, and that I'm not mature. I'm trying to stop threatening to quit the project and to photograph what Amelia wants as well. Only now that I have this mom perspective do I understand how painful it is to be a mother of a teen. Being a teen seems to be a universal condition, a daily challenge. Amelia is my first and only, and we make mistakes on one another. If only I could apologize now to my own mother. I greatly miss my little girl. Many times it hurts to watch young children. My little girl, the one in the photographs, is somewhat hard to remember, like a nostalgic dream. Like dreaming about your senior dog or a pup, or knowing your parents really were young a lifetime ago. I am proud and I am in awe of the young woman Amelia has become. I am used to the Amelia who is taller, who can pick me up and correct my clothes. I no longer have the upper hand. We negotiate now. I try to set aside work and to get off the computer to be with Amelia when she invites me to sit. We are traveling to Huichol communities in Mexico again, driven by Amelia's passion to make a documentary film. I like being part of a pack. Amelia and I are partners in a mother-daughter dance, and photography can lure my teen to be with me for a very short period of time, unplugged. Oddly, Amelia still wants to work with me despite so many people talking directly to her about quitting the project. They should only know how many times I have quit on her. I mentally punch them for asking her about quitting or assuming anything about us. I want to enjoy the moment and the privileged experiences we have known together. We are lucky. I am frequently asked what I will do after this project. I am a photographer with consistent history and will continue to photograph from the heart what I love. This photo, Flying Amelia, is my metaphor for Amelia growing up and growing away. Thank you. Amelia, you have to come up now. You were supposed to sit up front to give me moral support, but then Ab was there, who lured you back there. Okay. I get to stand in the box, because if you stand, okay, if we crash down, it's not really a strong box, and she is taller. Does anybody have any questions for Amelia? This box is going to sink. Here. Next, you're next.
How did you cope with fear surrounding the animals, especially the animals possibly feared you as well?
Well, I was never really afraid of the animals because I wouldn't go into any situation that I was afraid of the animals. But usually if the animals were afraid, I tried to just stay calm and lure them with food.
Hi, Amelia. So when you walk down the street and you just see like a little stray dog, does it kind of like speak to you or something? Like a little cat or something? Do you feel it?
Well, in Mexico, I was constantly picking up all the stray cats and feeding them and like buying dog food to give to the stray dogs. So I did feel a connection.
But my husband said we couldn't take them home.
I'd go to the taco trucks and split my tacos with the stray cats in the park.
They're beautiful. Romina, do you have a question? This is the best assistant at ICB.
Amelia, if your mom didn't prompt you to do these pictures and be this close to animals, do you think that you would? Do you think that you were somewhat chosen? Was that a fate or a destiny for you to?
I've always been drawn to animals. I don't think I would have the ability or the access to do what I do without my mother, but I would probably still have interactions with various animals.
And do you think that will carry forth into your life? Do you think that that's part of a career choice, or?
Well, right now I want to go into medical research, but I think that has to do with animals too, because I'm helping them or coming up with vaccines and things that will help progress.
Sarah?
Amelia, when you have a household of your own, will you have animals similar to the animals that your mother has, or will you make different choices, do you think?
Well, if I get a dog, it's definitely going to be a whippet, like Ruby or Becky. But cats, I prefer like big red cats, like normal or more normal cats. really been photographed with any animals underwater, like dolphins and stuff, so I'd really like that, and because I like the water. And besides that, other primates and big cats I'm interested in.
We'll try to make it happen. I just have to learn how to swim.
Robin, did you have animals when you were little? Like, what was your childhood sort of similar to Amelia's in a way, or were you hoping to?
So off the street, and I stole other people's animals because they were outside, but I was only allowed one cat. We did get a dog once from a pound, and the people who dropped it off at the Newark pound, they said that it was vaccinated against distemper, and it wasn't. So that was like pretty horrible. But you know, yeah, she's lucky, but this is so normal for her. Like, it's just so normal for her.
Hi. Out of all the photo shoots that you've done, which one was the most memorable?
You.
The most memorable for me was either Tash or Maddie. Tash is a chimp and Maddie is a gibbon. And I think dealing with apes is like incredible because they're just so close to humans. There's no other animal like it.
You know, my first book was primates, so it's really very intense. I mean, I once held a baby gorilla, and to look into the eyes of a baby gorilla or a monkey, it's like looking at yourself. And it's a pretty intense experience. And so we're in the same place there. Thanks for the question, though. This has been really cool.
Robin, you said that when you see the pictures of Amelia when she was younger, there's a nostalgia for that younger girl. I'm also a mom of a teenager, so. But I was curious for Amelia, when you look at the pictures of yourself younger, what's that like for you? Do you have the same nostalgia, or have you moved on?
I'm like the opposite. I always think that I'm getting better, so when I look back at pictures, I'm like, oh, I could have like done better then, or I look better now. I didn't mean it like that. I meant like.
It's hard to look like a woman when you're a child.
I didn't mean it like.
It's a good question. I mean, that thing about memory, I was really amazed how much she had forgotten and sort of shocked. And I was so happy that Leslie had Amelia write the foreword for the book because, I don't know, this is really like a time capsule for me, and I had no idea that it would be like this. You know, I feel pretty stupid, like as a maturing person, you know, like the mother thing, I just didn't get it, because when you're a daughter, you're just not a mother. And it's, you know, it's tough, and it goes so fast that it's weird and sad.
But also in the older photos, there's like an innocence that I have without being conscious of the camera or that there's going to be a final project that I sometimes wish I could go back to.
Ellen?
I'm just curious, do you travel around with costumes?
Costumes? No, we hardly have any clothes. I mean, I used to shop at like Daffy's, but now Amelia picks out, we're just using the clothes she had.
Well, that's now, but
before?
that's when she was young, like just being in the woods and caves and
That's, I mean, I got a cloak at the Renaissance Fair, and one of the circus pictures, they gave us that. But, you know, clothes are an extreme challenge because you can't use the same clothes over and over again. And I, you know, bought clothes. But now Amelia's, you know, she really designs and styles what she wears. And the clothes I want her to wear, she won't wear. I mean, this is a real collaboration at this point. But she could use more clothes. The gifts you got us are good. Keep them coming. I appreciate it.
I'm curious about your process. Do you sit at the breakfast table and say, let's go find an ostrich today? Or how do you find?
Access is pretty hard. She's really busy, and I have a very limited amount of time. I assume this summer, if she doesn't have an internship, that we're going to spend at least a month in Mexico. I'm going back to shoot in Florida in January, but I only had 1 week in August to shoot, and I packed it in. So we have very little time, and my life is really serendipitous, and it really depends on who offers me what, and how much I could get done. There isn't a great plan because people are doing me favors all the time. And so when I flew down to Florida, I had no idea how it would pan out. Like now, a circus person has asked me back to go to Florida, and I could show up in Sarasota and they could say, tough luck, girlie, get lost. I don't know. So, I do depend on certain people to go back to over and over again, and I'm looking at them now. So, and I'm really grateful for that, and I like being friends. I don't want to do a hit and run with these photographs. I like going back, doing it again, and trying to do a better job, and I am really, really fond. I love these animals, and when I talk to people and they go, oh, so-and-so passed away, it's really painful, and they're in the pictures. Animals don't live, that long, and there's no predictability. I asked the director of the Southwick Zoo about why an animal I knew died, and he goes, just like some people, some animals just don't, not every animal, not every elephant lives to their 40s or 50s. Some just die. It just happens. Because Shiva passed away in 2009, I was pretty shocked.
Most of your animal subjects are mammalian. Is that a conscious choice? Do you feel more connected with something that's really warm and fuzzy? Or do you just go with the animal that you find engaging at the time?
I only photograph animals I like, and I'm not that into, I've been around iguanas and everything, but there are certain animals that just don't make the edit, and I think what's really important is that they have a reaction to her. It's really important to me that animals aren't props. And that's the confusion about fashion. But a reptile's not going to really relate to her, and I photographed her with snakes and iguanas. But there's not that connection, that magical storybook connection. But in a way, that connection is real. These animals are relating to her. Sometimes we I don't know, fake it a little bit, but they really are. And that's what I'm looking for. I don't want to just use them. I want to know them and like them. And I want them to like her too. So if an animal isn't very cooperative, we can't really pull off that shoot because you could see everything. You could see everything on her face and the animals. And there isn't, that much tolerance, time-wise. You have to sort of, I'm not paying for time here. I'm just doing what I can, as long as I can do it.
And that's why I like other primates, because they're so relatable to humans.
We like kangaroos too, a lot. Okay. Well, I didn't expect, all these people I know to come. It's the day after Thanksgiving kind of thing. So I'm so thankful that you came. And so this is the real me. And usually, Ellen, you never see me like this. This is like the real me. But it only happens in New York. So anyway, thank you so much for coming. I think I'm cracking myself.